Good morning, Breakfast Club. Good to see everybody this morning. Glad that you are here. And got to wipe on the screen. All right, we're having technical difficulties again today getting on Facebook. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get in there with a different computer. And you guys, so honey, can you entertain the crowd? So
entertain the crowd.
Yeah, sing a song or do something. All right.
Some of my many talents.
Yeah.
No, but there is like a project that's going to be coming up that Bobby and I are going to do together. We are going to come up with a candle. We are going to make a candle together, and we're going to put it on Etsy to help pay for his treatment. So we're excited to come up with a couple scents that we can do together. But what I'm excited about doing is just doing something with him. So that will be fun. What else is coming up?
Oh no. Come on, honey. Make some comments or something. Hey, why don't you introduce the people on YouTube? There you go. Try to do that.
I didn't get to do this before.
Try to do that. Let's see if that works.
And read your handwriting. Have you ever seen his handwriting?
Stop it. Stop it.
Okay. So on YouTube, let's see, who do we have? We have Melinda Smith. Good morning. Carol Krakenstracken. No, did I say it right?
That's right. Yeah.
Carol Krakenstracken. I have lasers that engrave candles. What? Oh, that sounds interesting. Okay. Tom and Penny, good morning. Jim and Donna, good morning.
All right. We are live on Facebook. All right. Good stuff.
Did it work?
Maybe.
So we had to use a whole different computer to make it work.
Yeah. So, hey, Facebook. Good to see you. Everybody on PK Breakfast Club on YouTube. Welcome to the party.
It's on, but it's showing your face.
Well, that's right. There you go. Day number 8, Thursday, February the 26th, 2026. We're in Mark chapter 8, verse 31 to 38 today. And the title of the devotion is, I am not ashamed. I am not ashamed. Let's say hi to our YouTubers, and then we'll say hi to those that are joining us on Facebook. We got Melinda Smith in the house. First in line, 5:32 a.m. Whoa. That's because I didn't sign on to 5:30. But good job, Melinda. We got Carol Krakenstracken in the house, Tom and Penny Nungesser, Jim and Donna Walden, Hugh and Donna McGuire from St. Augustine Connection. Good to see you guys. Donna, I hope you're feeling better this morning. Jim and Kim Rosario. Can you roll your R's like that?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's why.
Neither can Kim.
This is why you are really good at what you do.
And Kim. Got Christy. Good to see you, Christy. Mama and Papa Deck in the house. Always good to have Mama and Papa Deck joining us. Angie Dazzle Brazzle. Good to see you. Jim and Sharon Gallagher. Good morning. Mata Elena Ferrari. Good to see you, Mata. Papa Stu in Buffalo. 19 degrees with a 27-degree high. I'm telling you, Papa Stu. All right.
We definitely have a room. Come on down.
Yeah, man. Come on down. You and Joanne need to come on down. We got Dale. Good, Patricia. Good to see you, Dale. Miss Janice on her way to Connecticut. Why in the world she goes to Connecticut this time of year? She says, I don't know, there's a party or birthday or something. Stephanie, good to see you this morning. Martha Garrido, good morning. Greg, good morning. Good to see you. Don and Becky Honeywell, good morning, guys. Lisa, Captain Lisa in the house. We got Scott and Renee Thornton. Good to see you guys. Choppy Dave, good morning, guy. Got Dave and Christina, the classy Massies in the house today.
Got your name.
Deb Elgin, good to see you, Deb. Kelvin and Rosa, good to see you guys. Mike and Arlita Gibson, good morning, guys. Gigi, good to see you this morning. Kathy, Early Bird Stroh in the house, good morning. Donna Cologne, good to see you, Miss Donna. Paulie, hey, Paulie, how you doing, huh? It's Paulie in the house. And Miss Angelina Ballerina. And we got Karen Bergen. Good morning, Karen. We got Marlon Ledrew. Marlon, good to see you this morning. Barry and Linda Udell, good morning, guys. Bethany, probably hadn't gotten home yet, but listening on the way. Tim Deck, good to see you, big guy. We got Dan McGuire jumping in. Did I say Rosa and Kelvin already? I did. I put you down twice, guys. That's how important you guys are. Terry, good to see you this morning. And whoever else jumped in after I stopped logging names. Honey, who's on the Facebook?
The Facebook. We have Gail. Gail Howell. It was playing. Gail Howell and Carolyn Orr, good morning. Barry Wills, good morning. Samantha
Hey, Barry.
Silvis, good morning.
Hey, Sam, Rob.
Carolyn Orr, good morning. Cynthia Silva, good morning.
Hey, Cindy.
Amber, good morning.
Hi, Amber.
Valerie, good morning.
Hey, Valerie.
Glad you're on here. Paula, good morning. She's calling in from Georgia.
Paula Minnick. All right. Hey, Paula.
And then we have Janet and Sammy. Good morning.
Hey, Janet. Hey, Sammy.
And that's who.
Good morning, Sammy. All right. So this passage here, it's a familiar passage to most of us. We've heard it. I know I've preached it, or at least put it into sermons about 1,000,000 times. It's the familiar passage, right? Deny yourself, take up your cross, follow me. But on the backside of this passage, there is as we went daily reading. Hey, aren't you glad that we're moving through Leviticus and getting into some more normal stuff, right? So if you read through Leviticus this morning, we're getting into the as we're talking less and less about sacrifices and more about living a life of obedience according to the commandments. And so it was a little bit easier reading today as we read through Leviticus. But as we get to Mark, this passage, it always kind of hit me in a different way, right? As we get down in the passage, and when verse 38, whoever's ashamed of me, right here, in my words, in this adulterous and sinful generation of him, the Son of Man will be ashamed when he comes into glory. And so I'm like, I heard that many times. And you know when I heard it? When did you hear that? When do you hear that phrasing about being ashamed of Christ? Don't be ashamed of Christ. You don't want him ashamed of you. I heard it during altar calls, right? During altar calls, hey, I'm going to tell you to stand up in a minute. When I tell you to stand up and come down front, don't be ashamed of Christ because you don't want him ashamed of you. It almost seemed like manipulation, right? Manipulation to get somebody to stand up and to come forward and, hey, coming forward and proclaiming your name and professing publicly. I'm all for it. But it always seemed to me like this passage or this phrasing was used out of context, and it kind of hit me crossways. And I'm like, man. So when I got to it this morning, as I'm reading through it, I'm like, you know what? I need to deal with this, right? I need to get right before the Lord. I don't want to be ashamed, right? But that's not, what is this really talking about? And I think there's a connection here that we miss. We often miss that it's helpful if we don't miss, right? Because there's connection here that Jesus is making for his disciples that's important in the context, and I think it's important to us too. Okay, and so let's get into this. We're going to read 31 to 38, and then we'll make some comment. All right, so that's this passage up here. There you go.
And he began to teach them, and it's going to be a day, isn't it? And he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes and be killed. And after 3 days rise again. And he said this plainly. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and seeing his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan." That song, "Get Behind Me."
Yeah.
For you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man. And calling the crowd to him with his disciples, he said to them, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake and for the gospel will save it. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? For what can a man give in return for his soul? For whoever is ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him will the Son of Man also be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels."
All right. So this context, this passage, this teaching of Jesus, many times we take out of context, deny ourselves, take up a cross, and follow him. But it's in the context of the conversation that he's having with none other than Peter, right? And so this whole conversation is happening in Caesarea Philippi, and it goes back to verse 27. And they're walking to Caesarea Philippi, and when they get there, Jesus says, "Who do you say that I am?" Right? And then some say Elias, some say John the Baptist, but who do you say I am? And Peter said, "What? You are Christ. You're the Son of the living God." Now, in other passages, it says, "Based upon that truth, Peter, going to build this house. I'm going to build my church, right? And the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." But in Mark, you get the Twitter version, doesn't say that. So, moving right into the passage that we're in now, Peter just confesses him as the Messiah, as the Son of God. And then he begins to teach them that what must happen is God's plan. that God's plan is that the Son of Man would be offered up, would be crucified, right? Would go to the cross and die, but on the third day be raised again. And Peter's like, wait a minute, we're not having any of that. Time out. Hold up. Wait a minute. No, no, no. Let me put some of myself in it, right? Peter said, no, 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 no. We're not going to do that. There's no way that we can let that happen. I'm not going to let that happen, Jesus. And Jesus is like listening to Peter, and he can tell Peter is not, he's not submitting to the will of God. He's not submitting to the plan of God, right? He wants his own way. And so it's out of this context that Jesus says, not only get behind me, Satan, because Satan wanted his own way. Satan didn't want to follow the plan of God either. And so Peter, likening Peter unto Satan, he says, get behind me, Satan, and because you're not following after the things of God, only what you want. It's in that context that he says we must deny ourselves, pick up the cross, and follow him daily. What does it mean to deny yourself? It means to follow the plan of God, not your own plan. Hello, right? And so this idea, and he continues to build upon it, and this idea of being ashamed in this passage, being ashamed of him, doesn't come with the idea that we're not going to stand up, speak up, and be representing the gospel. That is a context of the how it plays out. But in the context of this passage, is that to be ashamed means that we're not going to lay down our thinking and our will to God's will and bend our will to his. And so this idea of being ashamed, right, goes hand in hand with denying ourselves, right? We die to ourselves to follow the plan of God, even when it's not convenient or it can be costly, right? Because we're dying to ourselves, it can be costly. And so let's talk about this. The flow here, the flow of the passage, verse 31 to 33, Jesus began to teach them that he would be killed and then rise again on the third day. Peter rebuked him. And then Jesus said, get behind me, Satan, for you're not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man, on your own will, on your own way. And then in verse 34 and 35, Jesus teaches them that to follow him, they must also die and will rise again. To find eternal life, they must die. Okay? Don't miss this. So he says, let him deny himself and take up the cross. So it was bad enough for the disciples to hear that Jesus would suffer, be rejected, and die on the cross. Now Jesus told them that they would have to do the same thing. Everybody knew what Jesus was talking about here. There was no confusion here. Jesus was talking about the cross. Everyone knew what that meant. It was an unrelenting instrument of death. It wasn't just some cool piece of jewelry, which we've sanitized over 2,000 years. It was the instrument of cruel and just punishment and death. The cross had no other purpose. So carrying a cross was akin to death row. It was like, Jesus said, look, in order to follow me, you got to go to death row, right? You got to be on death row and die to yourself. So don't miss it, right? Jesus makes denying ourselves, denying himself, equal with taking up his cross. Warren Wiersbe, in his commentary, said denying self is not the same as self-denial. Catch this. Denying self is not the same as self-denial. We practice self-denial when, for a good purpose, we occasionally give up things or activities, right? Lent, we're in the middle of Lent right now, 2026. There are many people across the world that have given up different things for their religious purposes. Not only are we in Lent, where maybe fish isn't ate on Fridays for Catholics or whatever, giving up chocolate. I don't know why people would do that, but anyway, whatever it is, right? Even where Ramadan is, we're in the month of Ramadan where people give up food during the day. They don't eat during the daytime. And so all of these things, yeah, we practice self-denial when for maybe a good purpose, we occasionally give up things or activities, but we deny self. We deny self when we surrender ourselves to Christ and determine to obey his will rather than our will. The difference, that's a huge difference, okay? So in verse 35, he says, whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel will save it. So we must follow Jesus this way because it is the only way that we will ever live or we ever find life. It's kind of sounds strange, doesn't it? You will never live until you first walk down death row with Jesus. You're never going to really live until you're on death row and die to yourself. But that's the idea that we're talking about here. You can't gain a resurrection life without dying first. Good friend of mine that we're just kind of doing life with during his name's Dan Needham. He's a new member of our church. During our vision nights for the academy this year, and at the first board meeting that he came at, because he's really involved in Christian schools. Dan said, everybody wants heaven, but nobody wants to die. Everybody wants the good things in life, but nobody wants to struggle for them. Nobody wants to pay the price that it takes to have excellence or to have the good things in life. And everybody wants heaven, but nobody wants to die. And Jesus said, if you're going to follow me, you die. You die to your own will, your own way to follow him. Okay. And so, what does it profit a man in verse 36? Avoiding the walk down death road with Jesus means that we may gain the whole world, but end up losing everything. See, ironically, the people who live this way before Jesus are the only ones who are really genuinely happy. And so, it's only those who are genuinely happy and satisfied are the ones who have actually died to themselves and walking with Jesus. So, giving our lives to Jesus all the way and living as other centered people does not take away from our lives, it actually adds to it. Right. And those of you that have found that out to be true, you understand what Jesus is talking about here. Now, we get into this idea of being ashamed. Okay. And this is where I think we have hijacked and manipulated this phrase, almost using it as damage versus what Jesus was meaning here. Stay with me. It says it isn't easy to walk down death row with Jesus. It means that we have to associate ourselves with someone who is despised and executed. Yet if we are ashamed of him, he will be ashamed of us. Ashamed here, listen to this. Ashamed means feeling guilt, feeling embarrassment, or self-conscious discomfort because one believes they have done something wrong, improper, or fails to meet personal or societal standards. This happens when we give more weight to the opinions of man and the influence of the world rather than to Christ. And so to be ashamed there's dual context here. We can be ashamed and keep our mouth shut and not stand up for Jesus, publicly professing him. Okay, I get that. But what Jesus is getting at in this passage, and he's talking to Peter, right? He's talking about you are ashamed, right, to follow Christ to the cross. You'd rather throw up hands and continue to fight with your words and fight with your fist rather than to follow the example of Christ and die to your own will. Right? Jesus said, not my will be done, but your will, Father. We follow him, and to be ashamed is to not do that. Right? To not do that. Okay? So think of being ashamed in relational terms here. Relational terms. It signals a serious relational dynamic here. Jesus identifies with his followers, and there is a reciprocal relationship in which Jesus publicly affirms or disavows those who publicly align with him. So being ashamed here points to loyalty and allegiance. See, it's harder to not to lay down oneself. It's harder to lay down your will and follow the will of the Father. Right? It's easier to argue with people. Well, for most of us, right? When we think something's right, or when we think we're right, it's easy for us to argue that point. But what Jesus is saying, lay down your life and follow me. Right. And so it's this idea of loyalty and allegiance that he's talking about here. If someone consistently denies or hides their association with Jesus or refuses to publicly own him, Jesus indicates he will not publicly acknowledge that person at his return. The concern isn't mere fear or social consequences, but it's a prioritization issue. Are we prioritizing Christ and deprioritizing ourselves? Right? Will one's identity and allegiance be in Jesus even when it's costly? So there's a clear connection in this passage between denying oneself and being unashamed. Unashamed, okay? And being unashamed isn't just wearing the Jesus T-shirts, okay? That's great. I'm glad people do, and I wish I had more. I wish I had Gary Wildermuth's collection of Jesus T-shirts, right? I mean, so yeah, that's one thing, but we're talking about a posture. We're talking about a way of life here that is unashamed, that is bending our will to the will of the Father, just being obedient and following Him. All right. So how do we do this? Well, we got to reflect on our own posture before the Lord. Are we willing to own Jesus in public settings? Are we willing to follow him, including family, work, social circles, online, even when it leads to discomfort and misunderstanding? So, but think about it. Confessing Christ doesn't just merely being reckless, rude, or disrespectful either. And so that's the other end of the paradigm. Instead, standing for Christ should be expressed with grace, honesty, awareness of the situation, always understanding the cause of Christ and what we're here for. Right? People are not our enemy that disagree with us. We don't fight against flesh and blood. But what our responsibility is to help lead them to the
Mhm.
cross of Christ. And this is where I think Jesus is getting at. Look, on the mission that he's called us to, we have to deny ourselves, whether we are captured with fear rather than faith, right? We have to deny that fear and walk in faith, telling people about Jesus. But on the flip side, on the Peter side, right? On the Peter side, we have to deny our braggadocious, prideful, self-centered self, right? And yield to the will of God. And as we do that, we're denying self and following Christ. The ultimate end game, as we follow Christ, is that others would come to know him too. And so, today, let's be unashamed, right? Let's be unashamed about Christ. Let's yield or bend our will to his will and walk in a way that is glorifying to him, shining the light of Christ, of the gospel, not our own personality, not our own will, if you will. All right. So denying our fear, truly living in and for Christ. And look, this passage, don't let anybody use it as a weapon. Don't let it be manipulated against you, right? This is a relational issue. What Christ is asking each of us to do is to lay down ourselves and truly follow him. Lay down ourselves, whether that's fear and anxiety and worry and stress, lay it down, or whether it's pride and arrogance and self-centeredness, lay it down to follow him. That's what he's asking us to do today. Like, lay ourselves aside
Yeah.
and just take up our cross and walk with him. Hey, everybody wants heaven,
Yes.
but nobody wants to die. Father, I thank you for today, and I thank you for this passage. Lord, I thank you for the example that Peter gives us. I relate to Peter in so many ways. But Lord, I ask today that you help me and help us as we walk this journey. Today's part of the journey, Lord, that you help us to identify ways that we're trying to walk ashamedly, not representing you, but representing ourselves, whether it's fear, Lord, or whether it's pride. Lord, help us to lay those things down today so that as we walk with you, people see you in us. And Lord, may you get all the glory and all the honor. We love you, Jesus. It's in your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
All right, guys. We will look forward to seeing you tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Friday. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's getting away from us, right? Tomorrow here on the Breakfast Club, 7 a.m. Stay up with your reading. It's a great day in the Lord. Go out and have a great day. It's going to be beautiful outside in Florida. Papa Stu, we're praying for you, bro. God bless you guys. We'll see you soon. YouTube, you are out. Facebook.